my name is Nist, and I'm going to be making a Rogue Company tier list based upon high tier gameplay. First, I want to go through and explain all 5 tiers. S tier is for Spick or for Span. These are considered to be the strongest characters in the game. A tier is for rogues that are very good and can fit into any situation with little to no issue. B tier is for rogues that are situational and harder to fit into your team comp. C tier is for rogues that are highly situational and typically are not going to be picked. D tier is for rogues that are unviable or just have no value to the pick into team comps. So I'm going to be kicking out the tier list with D tier. So the first character in D tier is going to be Lancer. This might shock a lot of you, but overall Lancer is a very pub stomping character. She is very good in casual games. The issue is when it comes to more competitive games, a lot of her value just starts falling off and really hard. Lancer's kit and overall playstyle is to be aggressive and to challenge map timings and try to get map control. The issue that she has is her weapons are very weak, which means when she does this, a lot of times she loses those engagements, which means she's not actually getting any value out of forcing those engagements. Other characters can force those engagements at a different timing and win them, and this just puts Lancer in a position where, despite being able to pressure that position earlier, she's not getting much out of it. Another issue she has is her kit, in my opinion, is kind of boggled down, where she has a lot of perks and gadgets like smoke grenades and helping hands that make her want to fit into a more supportive role, but she's unable to do that with her playstyle because she needs to be aggressive. Some people have started doing this, especially recently. We've tested it out, and what we've kind of come to realize is that Lancer being a utility bot is a viable strategy, but she's just losing so much value compared to your other utility characters that typically run smoke grenades that it's just kind of pointless. Like, there's no reason to run her in that position anyways, and it just puts Lancer in a really rough spot. I actually don't think she will be getting buffed, despite I do think she needs it, just because of the fact that she performs very well in casual games, but for competitive games, she just seems like a character that isn't going to fit in very well. I'm actually fine with this though, because when Lancer has been meta, it hasn't typically been a very great time. Lancer is a very annoying character, and she kind of breaks the game in a lot of ways. So overall, Lancer being in D tier I think is fine. She is a very good pub stomper, and I do expect her to be pretty good at lower tiers of ranked. But overall, if you're looking to be more competitive, Lancer isn't really the best character to pick up. She is the only character in D tier though. The next tier we talk about is going to be C tier, and C stands for Chalk. So Chalk being in C tier also might surprise people. Chalk, a lot like Lancer, is very pub stompy, except he is extremely situational. Chalk has seen some competitive play in Pugs, and I do think he's very close to being good. Chalk's main issue is the fact that he has no range. This really hurts him with how the meta plays, with range being pretty dominant. It affects him because he isn't really able to take long range engagements, so he is relying fully on close range engagements, and a lot of times Chalk needs to push people with him having SMG, and there are characters that can just kind of shut him down completely, especially C4 being something that really hurts Chalk a lot. Overall, Chalk I think is an awkward character because he's not really bad. Chalk being C tier isn't Chalk related, it's just the fact that compared to every other rogue in the game, he doesn't get value. I would like to see Chalk get the Nightshade. I think this would actually boost him up into being a very consistent character in the meta, which I would be very excited to see him because I think he's a fun character to watch. But overall, with him being just with having no range, it's going to really hold him back. And at the end of the day, Chalk doesn't really need any changes. He's fine. He's very pub stompy like Lancer. But unless either other characters get nerfed or he gets some form of buff, he is just going to be an extremely situational pick in the meta. So we are on to B tier now. Now the first character in B tier is going to be Scorch. Now Scorch is another shocking pick for a lot of people due to how strong the casual player base thinks she is. Scorch is a interesting topic because she is a very good character. The issue with her is she's extremely situational. That's why she's in B tier. When you put her into positions for her to succeed, she excels. But outside of those specific scenarios, she is rather weak. This is why she's a very hit or miss character. If you don't know when you should be picking Scorch and you're picking her into these scenarios, she's going to struggle and not be rewarding and just be a detriment to your team. But when you pick her into scenarios where she can succeed, she's going to excel and she can just straight up win a game by herself by doing this. The maps that you might want to be picking her on is High Castle Defense, Favelas Defense, and Icarus Defense. Factory, I need more testing on Factory. But overall, if you're picking her on like Canal's attack, you might have some trouble getting anything out of her just due to how Canals plays. She might start really struggling. So that's why it's very important to learn what positions and what maps Scorch should be picked in. So once you know those scenarios, Scorch becomes a game changer. Now the second character in B tier is going to be Phantom. Phantom is everything I just said about Scorch can be applied to Phantom. When you pick Phantom into a scenario where she succeeds, she's going to excel in that scenario. But if you're picking her into a position or a map where she's going to struggle, you're going to get no value out of her. A map like Windward, Phantom can really make or break, but a map like Factory, Phantom just isn't going to be able to do as much as she would be on a map like Windward. That being said, Phantom overall is a extremely potent pick, and learning how to properly and effectively play Phantom can really help you and your team out significantly if you have a reliable Phantom player, especially because on a map like Windward, if one team has a Phantom player and one team doesn't, it can basically just straight up lose you the game if you don't have a Phantom player to counteract their Phantom player. So the third and final character in B tier is going to be Saint. Now, I was very hesitant to put Saint in B tier. Before the patch came out, I had Saint in B tier. But after the patch came out and I got to play with the Mamba more, I almost thought about putting him back into A tier. I decided against this mainly due to the fact that with the Mamba being extremely good, I don't think it's good enough to put him into A tier, mainly because Dima can run the Mamba anyways. And Saint's biggest issue is the fact that with the utility changes this patch, it's way harder to get his drone off with how much EMP's in the game. He is still a very, very good character due to smokes. It just, you won't be running him as much as the other smoke character, which we'll talk about later. Um, Overall, his perks are still really solid. He's just a really solid character in general. The thing that makes him situational is just the fact that certain maps he might struggle on. I'm thinking kind of like Icarus, where it tends to be a little bit more close quarters, and he doesn't have any weapon that really is good close quarters. The Mamba, with how it being better, I don't think it's like as insane to bump him up a tier, and his drone is just really, against good players, his drone is way too easy to counter. People know how to nade it, people know how to EMP it, people know that you can shoot it. So even with helping hands, really you're not going to be getting as many drones off as you'd like. Another big issue he has is he really only has one gadget. Him having trip mines just it kind of puts him at a disadvantage because he doesn't have a second reliable gadget like almost every other character does, and it really affects him. I think it's something that really stops him from being an A tier character is the fact that trip mines just aren't very good. They're okay at watching flanks, but you're not going to be getting kills with them since they got nerfed. And it just really, I can't justify putting Saint in A tier. Maybe if he gets a different gadget, or maybe the Mamba is just insanely good, but I don't think the Mamba is good enough to single-handedly put him into A tier. So now on to A tier. The first character in A tier is going to be Dima. A little disclaimer: in A tier, a lot of the rogues are just going to be pretty simplified of they're good. Dima is just good. His ability, good. His perk lineup, good. His weapons, both good. Both the Mamba and K30 are extremely good. His gadgets are good. Of course, he did lose smokes. That's why he's not in S tier, because he has EMP frag grenade. But both of those are still really good. Overall, Dima is in a fine position. He is good into any team comp. He's good into any situation. Just a very, very solid pick. Another solid pick in A tier is going to be Dallas. Dallas is a lot like Dima. They kind of fill the same role now with them both having EMPs. Dallas, with his ability, does let you get information. which information is invaluable in this game. And overall, Dallas and Dima play the same role. They're both fine. You can pick either of them and not be throwing the game. I do think that um, Dima has a small advantage over Dallas just due to frag grenades being extremely good, especially if you can learn how to use frag grenades. Frag grenades are extremely good. The third character that will be going into A tier is going to be Vi. Vi is extremely good. She got a little bit of a role change with her losing APS and gaining tenacity this patch. It has put her into a situation where she's actually better on attack now than she was last patch, and she's still very solid on defense. Her poison is extremely good at stalling people out. Her gas, which did get bug fixed this patch, which has basically been a buff because it wasn't slowing people as much as it's intended. It now lets you really delay people. A big issue both her and Trench started to have last patch was that people had sort of figured out you could just kind of push through their stuff with everyone. That is no longer possible with gas being fixed and her gaining gas. It has put her into a position where she is going to always be a very good pick into almost any situation, and you're never going to be upset with it. The one downside I would say is the Nightshade can be rather inconsistent with Bloom, so that's just something you have to be aware of. But outside of that, she is still an extremely, extremely solid pick. The last character that is going to be into A tier is going to be Glitch. Now, I wasn't sure to put Glitch into S tier, but after seeing him perform so far, I don't think he is S tier. And the reason I think that is I don't think he is extremely good on defense, but on attack I think he is really good. His EMP really opens up the map. It allows him to do a lot. His biggest weakness is he has really bad perks. He has one perk which you really want to buy, and that's bounce back. But outside of that perk, none of the other perks you really want to invest into. So a lot of your money will be going towards his guns or his gadgets, which are of course Flashbang Simtex, which Flashbangs, despite getting nerfed and being rather weak at the moment, are still really good if you can land them. And Simtex is a fine gadget. Overall, Glitch I think is actually a really well balanced character. His ability is extremely strong though, and that's why he is A tier. You're not really going to be picking him on defense too much, just due to a lot of the other characters are going to be way more valuable on defense, but on attack he is extremely valuable. We are now on to S tier, aka the most fun characters. So starting off with S tier, it's going to be Anvil. Anvil, his passive is insanely good. Not being able to basically be affected by any form of CC in the game is extremely strong. He is one of the best solo holders in the game. With the fact he has tenacity, his perk lineup is actually stacked. Like, the one bad thing about Anvil is he is money hungry, but outside of that, his perks are fantastic. He has the Executioner, which is basically a primary weapon right now, and if you want to, you can really use it on Anvil, or you can pick up one of his two weapons that are both really good. He has C4, he has APS, his shield can completely shut areas down. I'm thinking about Icarus on the satellite point. He can actually just block off a whole pathway, which means that if a team wants to attack that way, they either have to have Glitch EMP it, or they have to spend time and resources breaking the shield. He is probably the best solo holder in the game, maybe alongside Talon. And he is just so strong. Like, he is a very good core piece in a defensive team comp. He can be run on offense as well. I think overall that's sort of what puts him as the top two best characters in the game. The other best character in the game is going to be Talon. These two could probably be in an S plus tier alone. I just didn't want to add another tier to it. Even Drone and Trench could probably be an A tier, but I think they're just better than all these characters enough to warrant being an S tier. But Talon himself has a dart that gives you as much information as you want, and information is invaluable. Alone, how the dart currently works would put him in S tier without anything else. That does include the fact that his perk lineup is solid. His weapon, the LMPX, is extremely good. It has no bloom on the third upgrade. He has extremely good gadgets being C4 and flashbangs, Talon is actually the sole reason Chalk is C tier, because everything Chalk does, Talon can do, but way better. And overall, these two characters are just the number 1 and 2 characters. Talon is probably the character I'd say that should be picked in every single team comp, attacking side or defending side, no matter what. He is actually just that insane. The next character also in S tier is going to be Ronin. Ronin is now in S tier. She has been bumped up from A tier. Her and Dima swap positions. The reason they swap positions is Dima lost smoke grenades. Ronin has frag grenade and smoke grenade, which is an insane gadget combo. She is going to be your main smoke grenade going forward. She has her dagger, which is still extremely good. Her perk lineup is relatively cheap but efficient, and overall, she is a cheaper version of Dima, which was what she was last patch, but now she just is the best smoke you could possibly pick. Saint is the only other smoke you could pick, but Ronin just does everything better. Her value you get from picking her is insane. I wouldn't pick her on defense. I'd pick her mainly just on attack, but for being someone on attack, she is just that good overall. She is a very, very solid pickup. I would say that if you had to pick outside of Talon, Ronin on attack is the one character you should almost always have on your team comp. The last character in S tier is Trench. Trench has 3 APS. He can solo hold a site if needed to, yet he doesn't really have to just because a lot of team comps will actually be Anvil, Talon, Trench, and which means Talon can play the site with other people and have 3 APS down. It's extremely hard to break through that many APS. His gun is the HRM, which is extremely good. His talent lineup is also very, very solid. Um, Trench was almost A tier just for the fact that him and Vi are very similar. I think just the fact that Trench has triple APS is insanely hard. In 0.46, we had basically started running Trench, Vi, Scorch, Anvil, and running 4 APS on defense, or 9 APS on defense, and it was hard to break through. It was part of the reason why Dima, or not Dima, or Scorch and Vi lost their APS for other utility. Um, Trench, his barbed wire, a lot of people complain about it because it does slow enemies, or it does slow allies, but that's more on the Trench using it improperly. Barbed wire can definitely be used in positions that it's hard to deal with without having to use an EMP on it. That is one of the downsides is with EMP being on Dima and Scorch now, it has sort of lowered the value of barbed wire, but the value of APS is still there. Gas grenade also with it being bug fixed is extremely strong. I just personally I cannot move Trench down from S tier just off of his gadgets alone. He still has the HRM and MXR, which are both extremely good guns. Overall, Trench is just honestly a pick that Anvil Trench should probably be in most of your defensive comps at the moment, depending on maps. But Trench, he has so much value, and in picks and bans in this game, or just in picking, Trench just brings so much value. It's hard not to take him. So that was my 0.47 tier list. I will update this for 0.48 when we get 0.48, although I don't expect any drastic changes in 0.48. I hope you enjoyed. If you disagree with anything, leave a comment below and we can talk about it.